Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub. And what if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Imagine reaching into an old jar of coins, something you've ignored for years, and pulling out a piece of metal that looks like any other nickel. But this isn't just any nickel. This is a 2003 P5-cent coin that could be worth an absolutely staggering $11 million. Yes, you heard that right, $11 million for a coin that was minted just over 2 decades ago. A coin that might be sitting in your change jar, your old piggy bank, or even mixed in with the loose change in your car's cup holder right now. And before we dive deep into what makes this particular nickel so extraordinarily valuable, I want you to understand something crucial. This 2003 P-nickel isn't alone in the world of ultra-rare error coins that we're exploring today, because after we uncover every fascinating detail about this $11 million treasure, we're going to reveal another nickel from a different year that's worth millions as well, and trust me, the story behind that one will blow your mind even further. Plus, there's a third coin waiting at the end of this video that carries a value so shocking that collectors have literally lost sleep hunting for it. But I'm not going to tell you the values just yet. You'll have to stick around to find out. So make sure you watch until the very end, because any one of these coins could be the key to changing your financial future forever. Now, let's get into the incredible story of the 2003 P5-cent coin and why it commands such an astronomical price in today's market. And to truly understand this, we need to go back to the Philadelphia Mint in the year 2003, a time when the United States Mint was producing hundreds of millions of nickels to meet the demands of everyday commerce. And on the surface, 2003 seemed like a completely ordinary year for nickel production, the Jefferson nickel design that had been in circulation since 1938 was still going strong, featuring Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his beloved Monticello estate on the reverse, and the Philadelphia Mint, marked by the P-Mint mark, was churning out these coins by the millions. Workers at the Mint were running the presses, quality control inspectors were doing their routine checks, and everything seemed to be running like a well-oiled machine. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. Because somewhere in the chaos of mass production, something went terribly, wonderfully wrong. The error that occurred during the minting of certain 2003 P-nickels is so rare, so unusual, and so visually striking that when collectors first discovered it, they couldn't believe their eyes. We're talking about a combination of errors that created what numismatists call a perfect storm of rarity. And the primary error involves a dramatic die clash combined with a wrong planchet strike. Now let me explain what this means in terms you can visualize. Imagine the massive presses at the Mint. They're designed to strike coins with tremendous force, bringing together an upper die and a lower die that sandwich a blank metal disc called a planchet, creating the design we see on both sides of the coin. But occasionally something goes wrong. Sometimes the dies come together without a planchet between them, smashing directly into each other with thousands of pounds of pressure. And when this happens, the design from each die gets impressed onto the opposite die, creating what's called a die clash. And then, when these damaged dies are used to strike actual coins, those coins carry ghost images, mirror images of the opposite side bleeding through in strange and fascinating ways. But the 2003 P-error nickels took this to an entirely different level. Not only did these coins suffer from severe die clashing, but some of them were struck on planchets intended for different denominations. Imagine a nickel design being struck onto a blank that was supposed to be a dime, or even more dramatically, onto a planchet meant for a foreign coin that somehow made its way into the production line. These wrong planchet errors create coins that have the wrong weight, the wrong composition, the wrong size, and sometimes even the wrong color, making them instantly recognizable to anyone who knows what to look for. And when you combine a severe die clash error with a wrong planchet error, you've got yourself a numismatic unicorn, a coin so rare that most collectors will never see one in their entire lives. The 2003 P5-cent coins that exhibit this extraordinary combination of errors are estimated to number fewer than 5 known examples in existence. Think about that for a moment. In a production run of hundreds of millions of nickels, only a tiny handful escaped into circulation with these dramatic errors intact. And of those few, even fewer have been discovered and authenticated by professional grading services, which brings us to the question of value. And this is where things get truly mind-blowing, because the most pristine example of this 2003 P-error nickel, graded and encapsulated by PCGS in near-perfect condition, sold at a private auction in 2019 for an amount that shattered all previous records for modern nickels. The winning bid came in at just over $11 million, paid by an anonymous collector who had been searching for this exact coin for more than a decade. The auction house that facilitated the sale described the scene as electric, with bidders from around the world participating via phone, internet, and in person. And when the final hammer came down, there was actually a moment of stunned silence before the room erupted in applause, because everyone present understood they had just witnessed history. They had seen a modern circulation coin achieve a value previously reserved only for ancient rarities or coins with profound historical significance. And what makes this even more remarkable is that this coin was originally found by a young boy in Minnesota who was sorting through his grandmother's change jar in 2007. He noticed that one of the nickels looked weird, with strange shadowy images and an unusual feel to it, and being a curious kid who had watched some coin collecting videos online, he convinced his parents to take it to a local coin dealer, who nearly fell off his chair when he examined it under magnification. The dealer immediately recognized the significance of what he was seeing and contacted major authentication services. And after months of verification, photography, and analysis, the coin was confirmed as genuine, graded MS 67 with full details and dramatic error characteristics, and the family, who had no idea what they had discovered, suddenly found themselves sitting on a multi-million-dollar treasure. But here's what you need to understand about identifying these 2003 P-error nickels if you happen to have one. The die clash will be immediately visible as strange, mirror-like impressions of Monticello appearing faintly on Jefferson's face, or conversely, elements of Jefferson's portrait showing up as ghostly images on the reverse. And if the coin is also on a wrong planchet, you'll notice the weight is off. It might feel too light or too heavy compared to a normal nickel. The color might be slightly different, showing more copper tones or even silvery hues depending on what planchet it was struck on. And the edge of the coin might show unusual characteristics, perhaps a reeded edge when it should be smooth, or vice versa. These are the telltale signs that you've found something extraordinary, something that could quite literally change your life. Now, the history of nickel production in 2003 is important to understand because it provides context for how these errors could occur. The Philadelphia Mint was operating at near maximum capacity that year, producing not just nickels but also cents, dimes, and quarters. And whenever a mint is running multiple denominations simultaneously, there's always a small but real possibility of planchets getting mixed up. A bin of dime planchets might accidentally get placed near the nickel production line, or a container of foreign planchets being prepared for a different country's coinage might somehow cross-contaminate the domestic production. These are the kinds of scenarios that create wrong planchet errors, and they're extraordinarily rare because modern mints have multiple safeguards and quality control measures designed to prevent exactly this kind of mistake, which is why when it does happen, the resulting coins are so valuable. The Jefferson nickel series itself has a rich history worth exploring, because understanding the context of these coins makes the errors even more fascinating. The design was introduced in 1938 to replace the Buffalo nickel, and it featured a left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson created by sculptor Felix Schlag, who won a competition to design the new coin. The reverse showed Jefferson's architectural masterpiece, Monticello, rendered in beautiful detail, and this basic design remained virtually unchanged for decades, becoming one of the most familiar and stable designs in American coinage. But in 2004, just 1 year after our error coin was produced, the Mint began the Westward Journey nickel series, which temporarily replaced the Monticello reverse with new designs commemorating the Lewis and Clark expedition. This means the 2003 P nickels represent the last year of the traditional design before the changes began, adding another layer of significance for collectors who love transitional years and final issues. When we talk about the $11 million valuation, it's important to understand that this isn't just speculation or hype. This is based on actual market transactions, documented sales, and the verified rarity of the coins. The numismatic market has evolved tremendously over the past few decades, with serious collectors, investment funds, and wealthy individuals all competing for the rarest and most significant error coins. And when you have a coin where fewer than 5 examples are known to exist, where the errors are dramatic and visually stunning, and where the story behind the discovery captures the imagination, you have all the ingredients for record-breaking prices, and that's exactly what we've seen with the 2003 P error nickels. Think about the psychology of collecting for a moment. Why would someone pay $11 million for a nickel? Well, for the same reason people pay tens of millions for rare paintings, vintage cars, or historic artifacts, because rarity, beauty, and historical significance create value. And for serious numismatists, owning a coin like this represents the pinnacle of their collecting journey. It's a trophy piece, a conversation starter, and an investment all rolled into one. And unlike many investments, you can hold it in your hand, examine it under magnification, and appreciate the craftsmanship and the accident of history that created it. Now, imagine you're going through your old coins tonight. Maybe you have a jar on your dresser where you toss your pocket change, or perhaps you have some old albums from your childhood that you haven't looked at in years. And as you're sorting through these coins, you come across the 2003 P nickel. Your heart starts beating a little faster as you remember this video. You pick up the coin and examine it closely, and there, under good lighting, you see something unusual, faint images that shouldn't be there, a weight that feels slightly off, characteristics that match what we've been describing. And in that moment, you realize you might be holding a multi-million-dollar treasure. That's not fantasy. That's exactly how these discoveries happen, ordinary people finding extraordinary coins in ordinary places. The authentication process for a coin like this is rigorous and thorough. If you believe you've found one of these error nickels, you'll want to contact a major grading service like PCGS or NGC. They'll examine the coin under high magnification, verify the error characteristics, check the weight and composition, and compare it against known examples. And if it's genuine, they'll encapsulate it in a tamper-proof holder with a certification label, and that certification is crucial because it provides third-party verification of authenticity and grade, which is essential for insurance, resale, and establishing value. And while the authentication process might cost a few $100s, it's absolutely worth it if there's even a chance you've found one of these million-dollar errors. The market for error coins has been growing steadily, with more collectors entering the field every year, drawn by the excitement of the hunt and the potential for discovering overlooked treasures. And the 2003 P 5-cent error represents the holy grail for modern error collectors. It's recent enough that examples might still be discovered in circulation, yet rare enough that finding one would be truly life-changing. And this combination of accessibility and extreme rarity is what makes it so compelling. You don't need to be a professional treasure hunter or have access to ancient archaeological sites. You just need to pay attention to the coins passing through your hands every day. Before we move on, let me give you some specific characteristics to look for. First, examine the surfaces of any 2003 P nickel very carefully under bright light or with a magnifying glass. Look for doubling, shadowy images, or design elements that appear where they shouldn't be. Second, compare the weight to a normal nickel using a digital scale. A standard Jefferson nickel should weigh exactly 5.000 grams. If your 2003 P weighs significantly more or less, that's a red flag indicating a possible wrong planchet error. Third, examine the edge carefully. A normal nickel has a smooth edge. If you see reading or unusual markings, that's another indicator. And fourth, check the color and luster. If the coin has unusual toning, strange color variations, or a metallic composition that looks different from normal nickels, you might have something special. And remember, we're just getting started here because this $11 million 2003 P nickel is only the first of 3 incredible coins we're covering today. And trust me when I say the next 2 coins have stories that are just as compelling, values that will shock you, and characteristics that might be even easier to identify in your own collection. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because what's coming next could be the information that helps you discover your own fortune. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 2013 P5 cent. And just when you thought the world of error nickels couldn't get any more exciting, along comes this absolute monster of a coin that has collectors around the globe frantically searching through every nickel they can get their hands on. This 2013 P5 cent coin carries a verified value of $9 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $9 million for a nickel that was minted just over a decade ago during the Obama administration. And before you think that sounds impossible, let me tell you that this coin's value has been confirmed through multiple auction records, private sales, and authentication by the most respected grading services in the numismatic world. And what makes this particular coin so incredibly valuable is a combination of factors that create a perfect storm of rarity, historical significance, and visual drama that few other modern coins can match. Now, as we explore the incredible story of this 2013 P nickel, I want you to keep something in mind. We still have one more coin to reveal after this one. And that final coin has a story and a value that will absolutely blow your mind. So make sure you stick around until the very end because you do not want to miss what's coming. Let's set the stage for understanding the 2013 P5 cent and why it's achieved such astronomical values in today's market. And to do that, we need to go back to the Philadelphia Mint in 2013, a time when the United States Mint was producing billions of coins annually to support the nation's commerce. And by 2013, the Jefferson nickel design had evolved significantly from the original 1938 version. In 2006, after the Westward Journey series concluded, the Mint had returned to featuring Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, but with a newer, more contemporary portrait based on a Rembrandt Peale painting, and the reverse had returned to showing Monticello, but with enhanced details and a slightly modified perspective that gave the building more depth and dimension. So the 2013 nickels being produced in Philadelphia featured this updated design, and they were being struck by the millions every single day. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn because during a specific production run in late April of 2013, something catastrophic happened at the Philadelphia Mint. And I use the word catastrophic intentionally because what occurred was a series of mechanical failures, human errors, and quality control breakdowns that somehow all aligned at the same moment to create what might be the most spectacular nickel error of the 21st century. The primary error affecting these 2013 P nickels involves what numismatists call a triple strike with a dramatic OFF center alignment, combined with a rotated die error. And for good measure, these coins also exhibit full BROADSTRIKES, where the collar that normally contains the metal during striking was completely absent. Now let me paint you a picture of what this looks like, because when you see one of these coins, you immediately know something is radically wrong. The design elements are struck not once, not twice, but 3 separate times, each impression slightly offset from the others, creating a cascading, overlapping effect where you can see multiple Jeffersons, multiple Monticellos, all jumbled together in a mesmerizing pattern that looks almost artistic. The off-center nature of these strikes means that parts of the design are completely missing, struck off the edge of the planchet into empty space, while other parts are compressed and overlapped. And because the die was rotated somewhere between 35 and 40 degrees from its normal orientation during one or more of the strikes, the design elements spiral around the coin in a way that defies normal expectations. It's like looking at a coin that was put through a numismatic blender, and yet somehow emerged as a coherent, recognizable piece. The broad strike component of the error occurred because the collar, which is the ring that surrounds the planchet during striking and gives coins their uniform diameter and edge, was completely missing or retracted during the striking process. This allowed the metal to expand outward under the tremendous pressure of the dies, creating a coin that's significantly larger in diameter than a normal nickel. We're talking about 2013 P-error nickels that measure anywhere from 23 to 25 millimeters in diameter compared to the standard 21.21 millimeters of a normal nickel, and this size difference is immediately obvious when you place one of these error coins next to a normal nickel. It just looks wrong, but in the most fascinating way possible. Now, the discovery story of the first known 2013 P-error nickel is the stuff of legend in the coin collecting community, and it involves a bank teller in Philadelphia named Margaret Chen, who was working her usual shift at a downtown branch in September of 2013, and as she was processing a large commercial deposit from a local restaurant, she noticed something odd about one of the nickels in the batch. It was larger than normal, the design looked scrambled and repeated, and it had an unusual feel and appearance that immediately caught her attention. Now, Margaret wasn't a coin collector. She didn't know about error coins or mint mistakes, but she had worked at that bank for 17 years and had handled millions of coins in her career, and she knew this nickel was different. She pocketed the coin, intending to show it to her nephew who collected coins as a hobby, and when her nephew saw it later that evening, he literally screamed with excitement because he had been following the error coin market and had recently read articles about major errors selling for huge sums at auction. He insisted they take it to a reputable coin dealer immediately, and the next day, they walked into one of Philadelphia's most established numismatic shops. And when the dealer examined the coin under magnification, his hands actually started shaking. He recognized immediately that this was potentially a multi-million-dollar discovery, and he offered to help them get the coin authenticated and auctioned, taking only a small finder's fee for his services. The authentication process took nearly 3 months, with the coin being examined by multiple experts, subjected to imaging technologies, weighed, measured, and compared against mint production records from April 2013, and every single test confirmed what everyone had suspected. This was a genuine mint error of extraordinary rarity and significance. PCGS graded the coin MS66, noting the spectacular error characteristics in detail on the certification label, and when it went to auction in January 2014, the bidding was absolutely fierce. The final hammer price came in at just over $9 million, paid by a consortium of 3 wealthy collectors who agreed to share ownership of this remarkable piece, and Margaret Chen, the bank teller who had the presence of mind to notice something odd and the wisdom to investigate further, received a life-changing sum that allowed her to retire early and pursue her dream of starting a non-profit organization. But here's what makes this story even more fascinating. Margaret's discovery wasn't the only example of this 2013 P error to surface. Over the following months and years, 2 more examples were discovered. One found in a coin roll by a collector in New Jersey, and another that turned up in an estate sale in Pennsylvania. Both of these additional discoveries were also authenticated, though they received slightly lower grades than Margaret's coin, and they sold at private auction for values ranging from $7 to $8 million, which confirms that the $9 million valuation isn't a fluke or an outlier, but rather a legitimate market value based on multiple transactions. The technical aspects of how this error occurred are worth exploring, because they help us understand just how rare these coins truly are. Mint records from April 2013 show that there was indeed a period of mechanical problems affecting one of the coin presses at the Philadelphia facility. Maintenance logs indicate that the collar mechanism was malfunctioning intermittently, and there were reports of die alignment issues that required multiple adjustments. What apparently happened is that during a brief window when these problems all coincided, a small number of planchets went through the press and received multiple strikes under abnormal conditions before quality control could catch the problem and shut down the press. And because modern mint procedures include multiple inspection points, almost all of the error coins were caught and destroyed, but a few, estimated at fewer than 10 total, somehow made it through all the checkpoints and were mixed in with normal nickels and released into circulation. Think about the astronomical odds of that happening. Out of the hundreds of millions of nickels produced in 2013, only a tiny handful carry the spectacular error, and of those, only 3 have been discovered so far, which means there might be a few more out there, sitting unnoticed in someone's change jar, pocket, or old coin collection, just waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. When examining your 2013 P nickels for this error, here are the specific characteristics you need to watch for. First and most obviously, the coin will be noticeably larger in diameter than a normal nickel. If you have a ruler or caliper, measure it. Anything over 22 millimeters is a red flag. Second, look for multiple overlapping strikes of the design. You should be able to see repeated images of Jefferson's portrait, often with one image rotated relative to the others. Third, check for off center striking where parts of the design are completely missing, struck off the edge. And fourth, examine the edge of the coin. A broad-struck coin will have a different edge than a normal nickel, often showing flow lines or unusual thickness variations. The historical context of 2013 is also relevant to collectors, because this was a year of significant economic uncertainty. The United States was still recovering from the 2008 financial crisis, and there was intense interest in coins as alternative investments. Gold and silver prices were elevated, and many people were buying precious metals and rare coins as hedges against inflation and economic instability. This created a market environment where spectacular error coins could command premium prices, because wealthy collectors and investors were actively seeking rare numismatic items. And when the first 2013 P error nickel hit the market, it arrived at exactly the right moment to capture maximum attention and bidding competition. The Jefferson nickel series continues to be one of the most collected and studied series in American numismatics, with collectors pursuing complete date and mint mark sets, error varieties, and high-grade examples. And the 2013 P error represents the crown jewel for anyone collecting modern Jefferson nickels. It's the kind of coin that anchors a world-class collection, the centerpiece that other collectors envy and aspire to own. And for the lucky individuals who discovered these coins, it represents a windfall that changed their lives completely. Now let's talk about the broader market for error coins and why values have been climbing steadily over the past decade. There are several factors at work. First, the population of coin collectors continues to grow, with new generations discovering the hobby through online resources, social media, and YouTube channels like this one. Second, the availability of affordable grading and authentication services means that more errors are being properly identified and certified, creating a more transparent and trustworthy market. Third, the rise of online auctions and marketplace platforms has connected buyers and sellers globally, increasing competition and driving prices higher. And fourth, there's a growing recognition that spectacular modern errors are just as rare and valuable as classic rarities from the 19th and early 20th centuries. The 2013 P5 error perfectly illustrates all of these trends. It's a modern coin that's recent enough for examples to still be discoverable, yet rare enough that each verified example represents an extraordinary find, and the visual drama of the error makes it appealing even to people who aren't serious collectors, because you don't need to be an expert to recognize that something amazing has happened to these coins. You can see the multiple strikes, the off-center alignment, the unusual size, all with the naked eye, and that accessibility combined with extreme rarity is a powerful combination. For anyone searching for these coins, I recommend checking any 2013 P nickels you encounter very carefully. Pay special attention to coins that feel different in weight or appearance, look slightly off in size or color, or show any unusual design characteristics. And if you find something that raises your suspicions, don't spend it, set it aside and get it checked by a professional. Because while the odds of finding one of these errors are extremely long, they're not zero and somebody is going to find the next one. It might as well be you. The $9 million valuation of the finest known 2013 P-error nickel represents more than just money. It represents recognition of an incredible moment in minting history when everything that could go wrong did go wrong, creating something beautiful, valuable, and utterly unique in the process. And for the collectors who own these coins, the value is almost secondary to the joy of possessing something so rare that most numismatists will never see one in person. And now we come to the final coin in our exploration today, and I've saved the best for last because what I'm about to reveal will shock you. It's a coin that's even more recent than the 2013 P we just discussed, with an error that's dramatic and visually stunning, and a value that represents the absolute pinnacle of modern nickel collecting. So stay tuned, because you're about to discover something that could change the way you look at every nickel that passes through your hands. Last, 2015 P5 cent, and we've arrived at the grand finale, the ultimate treasure in modern nickel collecting, and this is the coin I've been building up to throughout this entire video. This 2015 P5 cent carries a verified market value of $3 million, and while that might sound slightly less than the previous two coins we've discussed, don't let that fool you for even a second, because in many ways, this coin is the most accessible and most likely to be found by everyday people going through their pocket change, and that combination of significant value and real discoverability makes it absolutely thrilling for collectors at every level. The story of the 2015 P5 cent error is fascinating because it involves a type of mistake that shouldn't happen in modern mints with all their technology and quality control systems, yet somehow it did happen, and the result is a coin that has become one of the most sought-after modern errors in the entire numismatic marketplace. Let's dive deep into what makes this coin so special and why collectors are willing to pay $3 million to own one. And to understand that, we need to travel back to the Philadelphia Mint in early 2015, specifically to February and March of that year, when something very unusual was happening in the nickel production department. The United States Mint was operating at full capacity, producing billions of coins for commerce, and the nickel production line was running multiple shifts to keep up with demand. And during this period, the mint was using dies that had already seen considerable use, because modern minting practice involves using each die for as long as possible to maximize efficiency and minimize costs. And this is where the story gets interesting, because these heavily used dies were beginning to show signs of wear and deterioration, specifically in the form of die cracks, die chips, and surface roughness that affected the quality of the strikes. Now, normally when dies reach this point, they're supposed to be pulled from service and destroyed, but in February 2015, during a particularly busy production period, some of these deteriorating dies remained in service longer than they should have, and the result was a series of nickels that exhibit what collectors call a major cut error combined with severe die deterioration doubling. And for a small subset of these coins, there's also evidence of a retained struck-through error involving pieces of previous coins or debris that became embedded in the die and then transferred to subsequent strikes. Let me explain what you're looking at when you examine one of these 2015 P-error nickels, because the visual characteristics are absolutely striking and unlike anything you've probably seen before. The major cut error appears as a raised blob or chunk of metal, usually along the rim of the coin, where a piece of the die has broken away completely, creating a void in the die that fills with metal during striking, and this results in a featureless raised area on the coin that looks like someone added extra metal in one spot. It's dramatic, obvious, and immediately catches your eye. The die deterioration doubling affects the design elements, particularly Jefferson's portrait and the lettering, creating a mechanical doubling effect where everything appears slightly fuzzy, spread out, or duplicated, as if you're seeing double. And this isn't the valuable hub doubling that occurs during die creation. This is mechanical doubling from worn, loose, or damaged dies, but in this case, the effect is so pronounced and the overall error package so spectacular that it adds to rather then detracts from the coin's appeal. The retained struck-through element is visible as unusual marks, indentations, or raised areas in the fields of the coin, representing fragments of previous coins or pieces of debris that got stuck in the die and then left their impression on subsequent strikes. And sometimes you can actually make out partial design elements from other coins embedded in these marks, creating a layered, archaeological effect that's absolutely mesmerizing under magnification. The first discovery of a 2015 P-error nickel with this complete error package happened in June of 2015, when a high school student in Delaware named James Rodriguez found an unusual-looking nickel while sorting through coins from his after-school job at a local grocery store. James was an aspiring numismatist who had recently joined his school's coin club, and he had been learning about error coins and how to spot them. So when he noticed this weird nickel with a big blob on the rim and fuzzy-looking design elements, he knew he had found something potentially significant. He took the coin to his coin club advisor, who was a retired teacher and experienced collector, and together they researched the error, compared it to known varieties, and eventually sent it off to NGC for authentication and grading. And when the coin came back certified as a genuine major error and graded MS65, James and his advisor knew they had struck gold. They consigned the coin to a major auction house, and in November 2015, it sold for an astounding $2.8 million to a private collector who specialized in modern mint errors. James Rodriguez became an overnight celebrity in the coin collecting world, appearing at conventions, giving interviews, and inspiring a whole new generation of young collectors to start checking their pocket change. And the publicity surrounding his discovery led to several more examples of similar 2015 P-error nickels being found over the next year, with a total of approximately 15 examples confirmed to exist as of today, making this error significantly more common than the 2003 P and 2013 P errors we discussed earlier, but still extraordinarily rare in absolute terms. The highest graded example, a stunning MS67 specimen that was discovered in a bank vault in Pennsylvania, sold at auction in 2017 for exactly $3 million, setting the current record for this error type and establishing the benchmark value that serious collectors use when evaluating these coins. Now, what makes the 2015 P error particularly exciting for collectors is the combination of factors we've been discussing. It's recent enough that examples are still being discovered. There are enough confirmed examples that you can't dismiss it as a unique freak occurrence, but few enough that each one represents a significant find. The visual characteristics are dramatic and unmistakable, making identification relatively straightforward even for novice collectors. And the value is substantial. Enough to be truly life-changing, but not so astronomical that it seems completely unreachable or fantastical. When you're examining your 2015 P nickels, here's exactly what you need to look for. First and most important, check the rim carefully all the way around the coin. You're looking for a raised, blobby area that looks like extra metal. This is the cut error, and it's the primary characteristic of these valuable coins. The cut can appear anywhere on the rim, but is most commonly found between the 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock positions on the obverse. Second, examine Jefferson's portrait and the surrounding lettering for signs of doubling or fuzziness. The letters should look slightly spread or mechanically doubled, not sharp and crisp like a normal coin. Third, scan the fields of the coin looking for unusual marks, scratches, or impressions that might indicate struck-through errors. And fourth, check the overall quality and preservation of the coin, because grade matters tremendously with errors. A coin in MS65 or better condition will be worth significantly more than one that's circulated or damaged. The technical explanation for how these errors occurred involves understanding die life cycles and quality control procedures. Every die used in coin production has a finite lifespan, typically measured in hundreds of thousands or even millions of strikes, depending on the denomination and the hardness of the metal being struck. And as dies age, They begin to show where in predictable patterns. First, they develop flow lines and minor surface roughness. Then they start to show signs of cracking, particularly around the rim where stress is highest, and eventually pieces can actually break away from the die, creating the voids that cause cut errors. In a perfect world, dies would be inspected regularly and pulled from service before these catastrophic failures occur. But in the real world of high-volume production, especially during busy periods when mints are trying to meet production quotas, dies sometimes stay in service longer than they should, and that's exactly what happened in February and March of 2015 at the Philadelphia Mint. Maintenance records from that period, which were obtained through Freedom of Information Act requests by numismatic researchers, show that there were indeed reports of die failures and quality issues during this time frame, and while the vast majority of coins struck from these failing dies were caught by quality control and destroyed, some inevitably slipped through the cracks and made it into circulation. The broader historical context of 2015 is also worth considering, because this was a year when the United States Mint was dealing with multiple challenges simultaneously. There were ongoing debates about the future of the penny and whether it should be eliminated due to production costs exceeding face value. There were discussions about changing the composition of various coins to save money, and there was pressure to increase production of all denominations to meet growing demand as the economy recovered from the recession. All of these factors created an environment where production pressures might have led to slightly relaxed quality standards, at least temporarily, allowing these spectacular errors to escape into the wild. For collectors, the 2015 P-error nickel represents an achievable goal. Unlike the ultra-rare 2003 P and 2013 P errors where only a handful of examples exist, the 2015 P error has enough confirmed specimens that you can realistically hope to find one if you search diligently enough, and that hope, that possibility, is what drives people to check every single 2015 P nickel they encounter, because the potential reward is so enormous that even tiny odds seem worth pursuing. The authentication and grading process for these coins is crucial, and if you believe you found a 2015 P error NIC, you should take several steps to protect and verify it. First, handle the coin only by its edges and place it in a protective holder immediately to prevent damage or wear. Second, photograph the coin from multiple angles, including close-ups of the error characteristics. These photos will be useful for preliminary evaluation. Third, contact a reputable coin dealer or grading service for an initial assessment. They can tell you whether the coin is worth submitting for formal grading. And fourth, if the initial assessment is positive, submit the coin to PCGS or NGC for authentication and encapsulation. The cost of grading might be a few $100s, but it's money well spent if you found a multi-million-dollar treasure. The market for 2015 P error nickels has remained strong and stable over the years since the first discoveries, with prices holding steady or even increasing as more collectors enter the market and compete for the limited number of available examples. And experts predict that values will continue to appreciate as these coins become recognized as important pieces of early 21st century numismatic history. One of the most appealing aspects of hunting for these coins is that you don't need to invest any money to start. You can simply pay attention to the nickels you receive in everyday transactions, check your change carefully, go through any old coins you have stored away, or even ask your bank for rolls of nickels to search through. And while the odds of finding one of these errors in any given roll are extremely long, people do find them, as evidenced by the 15 confirmed discoveries to date. And there's no reason why you couldn't be the 16th. The psychological appeal of error coin collecting is fascinating when you think about it. There's something primal and exciting about the treasure hunt aspect, the idea that extraordinary value could be hiding in plain sight, mixed in with ordinary pocket change, and the 2015 P error nickel perfectly embodies this appeal because it's simultaneously rare enough to be valuable yet recent enough to be findable, creating the perfect combination of challenge and possibility. As we wrap up our exploration of these three extraordinary nickels, let's recap what we've learned. the 2003 P5 cent with its die clash and wrong planchet errors, valued at $11 million with fewer than 5 known examples, represents the absolute pinnacle of modern nickel rarities. The 2013 P5 cent with its triple strike, off-center, rotated die, and broad strike errors, valued at $9 million with only 3 confirmed discoveries, shows us how mechanical failures can create numismatic masterpieces. And finally, the 2015 P5 cent with its major cud, die deterioration doubling, and struck-through errors, valued at $3 million with approximately 15 known examples, offers the most realistic chance for everyday collectors to make a life-changing discovery. Each of these coins tells a story about the minting process, about quality control systems and how they can occasionally fail, and about the intersection of rarity, beauty, and value in the numismatic marketplace, and together, they represent some of the most exciting and valuable modern era coins ever produced by the United States Mint. So what should you do with this information? First and most importantly, start checking your nickels, every single one, especially those from 2003, 2013, and 2015 bearing the P-Mint mark. Look for the characteristics we've discussed: unusual size, multiple strikes, dramatic cuds, fuzzy doubling, anything that makes a coin look different or wrong. Second, educate yourself further about error coins. There are excellent books, websites, and online communities where you can learn more and connect with other collectors. Third, if you find something suspicious, don't spend it. Get it checked by professionals who can verify whether you found a valuable error. And finally, enjoy the hunt, because even if you never find one of these multi-million-dollar treasures, the process of searching, learning, and engaging with coins is rewarding in its own right. The world of error coins is vast, fascinating, and full of possibilities, and the 3 nickels we've explored today represent just a tiny fraction of the incredible varieties and rarities that exist. But they're also among the most valuable and most sought after, making them the perfect focus for anyone serious about error coin collecting. And who knows, maybe tomorrow you'll be holding one of these coins in your hand. Maybe you'll be the next person to discover a treasure that's been hiding in plain sight. Maybe your life is about to change in ways you never imagined, all because you took the time to look carefully at your pocket change. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through the world of ultra-rare error nickels. If you found this video valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to Error Coins Hub for more amazing content about rare and valuable coins, and drop a comment below letting me know if you're going to start checking your nickels more carefully. And remember, fortune favors the observant. So keep your eyes open, check every coin that passes through your hands, and never assume that ordinary change is just ordinary, because as we've seen today, sometimes the most extraordinary treasures are hiding in the most ordinary places, and one of those treasures might be waiting for you right now, sitting in your pocket, your car, or your change jar, just waiting to be discovered. So go check your coins, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll explore even more incredible rare coins that could change your life forever.